Morning. It is 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, and here I am, Norma Cowie, with Norma Cowie Talks Metaphysics. Now, I mentioned that I was going to talk about goal setting today. I often have talked about goal setting throughout the year, but first, before I begin to do that, I just realized is that I wanted to say happy last day of 2025. I think all of us went through some things in this 2025 era, but now we're going to be embracing tomorrow another year. Now, this, I just want to point out 2025 has been a personal number of a nine. A nine is ending, closing, like coming to an end, completion, in other words, very much a completion. 2026 is the number 1 year, the beginning of a 9 year cycle. Newness, open, change, a lot of variables which will be taking place with there. So today I had said I wanted to speak about goal setting, and I have two books where goal setting is really talked about quite a bit. One is my little booklet called Secret Spiritual Principles of Wealth, and the other one is Secrets for Living Happily. So I sat down yesterday to go and sort of put things together a little bit, and then I realized, well, it's already done, so I don't want to be going and repeating everything again. So I'm going to sort of read, talk, add on as we move through. So, goal setting. How many times have you heard goals are important? Well, they are. Once I did a consultation, which I could see that the person before me had no direction, no goals at all. I said to her, "What are your goals and where do you want to go?" And she replied in all sincerity, "God knows." I replied, "How?" She could not answer. I believe we create our reality by our thoughts. Therefore, we are sending thoughts out into the universe all the time. And God answers those thoughts. Now, God to me is a loving energy, just like an indulgent mother or father. This energy of love will give you anything you want. There are no discrimination, there is no judgment. I also always want to point out I say the word God, whatever you want to use in your mind. Personally, I call it the love source, but God works often when I've been lecturing or speaking or talking on this any kind of spiritual subjects. Now, okay, where am I here? If your thoughts are of pain, lack, and disappointment or worry, you will get pain, lack, and disappointment, and just worry more. If they are of rewards, you will get rewards. Therefore, if you want peace, joy, love, you get peace, joy, and love. If you think abundance, prosperity, wealth, you can get abundance, prosperity, and wealth. It all begins with your thoughts. Now, I do want to add something here. I wrote this many years ago. As my growth went on with one of my spiritual teachers, I began to realize, as it was shown to me, even more than I thought was possible, was how important your subconscious is. Everything is in that subconscious. And very often, no matter what we do kind of consciously, if we don't get in alignment with the subconscious beliefs, that's the beliefs we hold in those subconscious, they are the ones that put sort of the final stamp on things. So just to tuck that back on your mind, because very often I find a lot of people I work energy releasing, clearing the systems and everything. And then it says to me, you got to go to the subconscious. In other words, we got to clear a lot of stuff from the basics, but the depth comes in the subconscious. And when we do the subconscious work, that's when we see I really see the miracles, and my clients see the miracles happening, and to a greater extent. So I just want to make sure that's really understood that yes, we have lots we can do with our mind. Very, very important. But also, you've got to recognize that if there's patterns keep coming and coming and coming, they're fadita. They're old time decisions. You could have made them billions of years ago if you've been here that long. And you will be able to make sure that you move on in the way that you want. So, one of the other things I wanted to talk about by goal setting, you are basically telling God, this is what I want, and this is what I want brought to me. Now, I've got a little note down here that I wrote later. Remember to be grateful through the power of the thank you. When things show up, just remember to give a gratitude of in your mind. Say thank you. Very often we're so happy what we've got and may not even realize that's part of our goal setting element that we forget to say thank you. And I have found that one of the very useful. Everything likes to be acknowledged, even the universal love force. So we can acknowledge it as much as we want. The other thing here is got. Oh yeah, I wanted to share this with you because this is very true. An example I use when teaching goal setting is ask yourself, would you go into a restaurant and say, bring me whatever? Usually, we order very specifically what we want. Therefore, when we are putting our order into the kitchen of life, we need to be specific or be satisfied with what is dealt up. For example, a breakfast order could be bacon, eggs over easy white toast and hash browns or pancakes with fruit on the side. When we order food, we get very specific. Then, when we order in life, we either forget to be specific or just do not do it. I have an example. I thought that was when this was going. Anyway, I don't know where it went, but it was in this paragraph. And I'm gonna I'm gonna tell you. I'm just gonna talk to you about it because I was one thing was really interesting. 3 times in my life, I used to travel a lot because I was traveled first with a psychic fair show and then as the producer of a psychic fair show. So we had a lot of breakfasts in different hotels in the morning before we'd go to the place and work all day and night. Seemed like it anyway. 3 times in my life, I've sat down with a group of people, and sometimes, one I remember so well. She was talking away to the next door. I think this was the first time I ran into this. It was a lady, one of our exhibitors, was talking to the lady next to her about something, and the waitress came around, for the order, and this person turned around and said, "Oh, bring me whatever." And I stopped at that and thought, "What? You order whatever?" Remember, this is the first time I really heard this. Anyway, the lady was brought a breakfast. She sat, and when she was still talking to the person next to her, she sat down and she ate it, no problem. And that's what I found each time, that when a person said, "Bring me whatever," well, 3 times out of all the years, it's out there. Some people do that. Is that they always ate it quite gratefully. They never complained and never said, "Oh, is this what you picked?" or whatever. They just ate it. And they were grateful for eating it. And then they kept on usually talking. So I saw that myself with my own eyes and experienced it 3 times. So I probably will run it as I come down here. Now, I've got another little section here. If you do not have dreams, which you can turn into goals, you will not achieve what you want. You will become like a ship on the ocean without an engine, going where the sea takes you, or the tide, you could say. You need to be the navigator of your life. When I was figuring out the statement, let go and let God, which was really big in the metaphysical church I started studying with many, many years ago, And to figure out what that really meant for me, what does that mean? Let go and let God. I did not set goals. I found I ended in confusion. I came to understand that letting go and letting God was setting my goals and then letting go of trying to figure out how to get them. I let God bring me the steps I needed to take to achieve them. My job, my part of the partnership is to know. That's a big word. Know. The end result is there and to take the steps as they arrive. And I just want to preface on this as something else too. As I have tended to scatter my energies, I found that by being more aware of my goals, I reach them much more easily. Let go and let God, but not without direction. Okay, God, bring me whatever. I tell you, it's like breakfast. Bring me whatever. And then something shows up in your life isn't what you really wanted. Maybe you handle it and deal with it just fine. Maybe it just makes it one great thing you can just go on. But it was my learning I had to learn was to know what I was asking for, know what I wanted. And it's that knowing. And then watching the miracles happen around me. Now they didn't happen every day and they didn't happen for something that I wanted, but I also found as I became more aware that more and more things happened, which brought about wonderful different miracles. Also, one of the things I teach is what I call the first step principle. And that is know the end result, know your end result, and ask yourself, what is my first step? You see, when you have a goal that you're working actively towards, whatever step you take is your first step for the next bit. So it's like, there's my goal way down there. I know it's coming. I want it. I'm putting my order in. I'm thinking it'll be there. But what is my first step? What do I need to do to get that energy moving? So you do that, you start that, then you just check again. Well, basically the next thing is what's my first step? What's the next step? You could say, what's the next step? But you want to make sure you always think you're on that first ability of that step. And it makes such an important point. By knowing the end result in your consciousness as your goal, you will achieve it step by step. A lot of people just think it should be here and now. And sometimes that happens. I've had that happen. You think something, I really would like this, and the next thing, there it is. But mostly that's not how it happens. That's not how it works. So that's one of the problems. And okay, yeah, the other element I have written down here that I want to talk about was goals of things, situations, and or feelings you want to have happen. Goals will not happen unless you decide they are in your future reality. One of the most important things I found in creating is that you need to decide it is true for you. I call it putting your desire, want, goal into a knowing place. When you know in your body, your gut, you're going to receive the goal, it is only a matter of time before it arrives. Therefore, when you have written out your goals, go over them. Check inside yourself to ensure that you have decided your goal is definitely going to be in your future. Does it feel real to you? There's many other things I've learned over the years, taking different workshops with different teachers and stuff, that I just want to kind of put down some basics elements. And again, another paragraph I wrote. I used to be much more impatient with life, wanting what I wanted now. I used to get upset when I did not get what I wanted immediately. Through time, the advantage of age, I found my goals have arrived at the correct and appropriate time. I have come to trust universal timing. I have learned to have faith. I have learned to trust in the divine power to bring me what I want. Timing is a very, very interesting thing because divine timing isn't always our personal timing. Sometimes we forget what has to be, I'm going to use the word manipulated. If you want something and you have this energy working for you, they just can't go and plunk it. They have to work with what is actually out there to bring that into your pathway. And some of the goals, quick is easy, and some are not. Some take some figuring it out. So, it's like I learned to give up being impatient and just trust, trust and move. And also the power of the thank you. I just believe in that so much these days. Um, I t- and as I said here, I found it important to make a list of the goals that reflect into many areas of your life. And I wrote a guide, and there was personal goals, career work goals, material goals, spiritual goals. So what may they be? Personal goals could be in a relationship, a holiday, weight loss, personal things. Career work, promotion, new job, higher salary. In other words, again, what applies to that part of you? The material world, new car, house, clothes, one of those that deals with our day to day world a lot. And spiritual goals, more patience, feeling more connected, meditation, all of those elements all came along. Um, okay. And then there's other, like any other goal you want that doesn't fit into a category. I've got something marked here. It says, remember, be specific when you list your goals. Go for the end result. You need to decide you are going to receive these goals. One of the things, when I say end result, one of the things I found is that very often the step towards a goal, people think that's the end goal and it's only a step. So, what is the end result you're actually going for? What is it that you're really wanting? I also have a place in here for your top 3 goals. Just again, because you want to be kind to be aware of those. Basically, I think that's what I wanted to say on that from this book. Okay, so I'm going to go more into the philosophical book. And this was my Secrets for Living Happily. Starts at page 12. This part I'm going to read you. I think so. I don't think. Yeah. One important key in living happily is to live in the present, the now. There is only now, the present. Now is created by what you have thought, felt, and related to in the past. Today, through your thoughts, feelings, and reactions, you are creating your future. That's why the present is so important. What you're thinking, what you're doing, how you're perceiving things. Therefore, the happier you are with your life today, whoops, flipping my glasses off, the happier your future will be. One way of living in the now is to know what you want in your life. A happy person works towards what they want, enjoying and celebrating each day, and especially the achievement along the way. Also, one key to remember is you always know your own answers, but I have found out you may not like them, as it will mean doing an action you're unsure of. Therefore, instead of listening to yourself and creating what you want, you will procrastinate, with the results being you will not create the happiness you want. Remember, this is a book about being happy. And I had another section here I wanted to. Okay, decisions. When I first heard about the concept, you create on the outside what is on the inside. I began an inward journey looking for what was creating my unhappy reality. What I discovered was I held certain beliefs about life which were formed by decisions I had made and continued to make throughout my life. Decisions I had no conscious awareness of making. I found I had made decisions about everything: life, people, my actions and reactions to my actions, and most of these decisions I had made before I was 3 years old. As these original decisions were made when I was young, they were no longer serving me as an adult. They were restrictive and outdated. I began going inside to change my early decisions so I could begin to create what I wanted in the now. And I've got a footmark here is written about that in the inner our emotional Freud. Yeah, I've changed the title on that book. When I first wrote it, it was the inner ghost, self-frozen emotional children. I wrote in 1994. So it's like being happy or being having a contentedness, which I found as I've gotten older. It's not so much happy, but it's like contented. I deal with all the little obstacles that happen in life because they do. So, one of the things it says here, the original decisions are probably made before you're the age of 5. You would have felt your happy feeling, the wonder, the joy of living, and then someone would have said or done something which stopped you having the happy feeling. As this occurred over and over, you made a decision that to be happy is only setting me up for unhappiness. So why bother being happy to begin with? It says here, I remember remaking the decision when I was around 10 years old. Remember thinking, what's the use of being happy? Something always happens to stop it. And then as the years went by, I took on an attitude that was accept the worst, and then I'll be happy with whatever happens. It was when I decided to change those early decisions by deciding that in the now, I wanted happiness. Later, I went inside and changed the original decisions, and I found I could keep the happy feeling alive within me. I remember the first time I realized no matter what was going on in my life, inside I was happy. It was after I had left my husband and had 2 surgeries within a week of each other. I was crying and feeling sad because I was all by myself. My children were many miles away, and although my friends had been incredibly wonderful at that moment, I missed my children. Then, in my sadness, I became aware that underneath the sadness, I'm going to lose my place. That's really great, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Underneath my sadness, I was happy. It was quite a shock at first. I had not even looked below the sad emotion before. I had always responded as I was doing then by being sad. When I recognized that although my happy level was low as my feeling alone, the inner me was happy. From then on, no matter how I was feeling, I monitored my happy state. I would check and say, right now, I'm 10% happy. Right now, I'm 20% happy. Right now, I'm feeling 60% happy. And right now, I'm 100% happy. I always became aware of my happy state. You too can begin by checking your happy level. Check inside and ask, how happy am I? You may be surprised with the answer. Why I put that there is because from that state that you're in, knowing what your happy level is can translook at your goals. So your goals can be towards what you really are desiring and wanting. And you can just allow everything to move forward in a very, very big direction of where you're heading and where you're going. There's lots of little ways you can help and make things happen and grow and work and know. But it's like these two books for me were just basic books: Spiritual Principles of Wealth, which goes on to much more than what I talked about today, and Secrets for Living Happily. So, because it's very easy for those of us that have had childhoods that had perhaps not the best situations, knocks in life, when you think everything's going well and then everything sort of ends and you don't know where you're going. All these things, sometimes you need a little bit of assistance and keeping the belief system that you are important, which you are, that you have the ability to create, which you do, and that there is a force, no matter what you call, but I'm just going to say God here right now. There is a God, a force of love that is there for you if you accept it, if you come to terms with it, if you understand that it's a lot about your thinking, what you are deciding, what you are doing, and that you're doing it in the present. I wish for you as we move into 2026, I will be later today or probably tomorrow. I usually do them on the 1st because I have a client today and some other things happening. Probably tomorrow on the 1st, I will be setting out my goal list for the year and making the decisions as to what I would like to see happen and do for the next year. I'm just happy it's a 1 year. It makes a big, big difference to anything you want to create. It's a great time for making shifts and changes in your life, making things happen and work. And I want to thank you for listening to me. I know it's a little not as smooth because I'm looking at my book and sometimes lose my place, but I really send you things. And before I do, I just wanted to say, Matzo7, thank you for showing up. Hello, he says, hello, Norma. I made it. Happy New Year in advance. Yes. And then I just got another. I'm trying to. Oh, it's my glasses. I'm not really seeing things. Um, Doris, she says, appreciate these sharings. Happy New Year's Eve. Yes, same to you. And then Marianne says, good morning. Well, basically morning, Norma. Yes, we're all here as I'm closing and ending. And today's Wednesday, so I'll be back for something on Sunday. And again, of course, mental mind treatments is on Monday night. I wish you well. Use this time wisely to think about what do you want, write them out, and look at it. Ask yourself, is this the end result I want, or is it a step to the end result? Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye now.